Welcome to Envisioned Broadcasting, the station designed to encourage, equip, and empower you for growth and success presents When They Hear Us, an author's movement, a show that provides authors a platform to share their voice with the world. When They Hear Us, with Dr. Tracy Lashley, begins now.
Hello, everyone. You are in for a treat. You're listening to When They Hear Us. I'm the host, Dr. Tracy Lashley. I am the Chief Elevation Officer of the Leaders Innovative Growth Solutions. And I am also the founder and the CEO of Bossed Up Lead Hers, a nonprofit corporation, 501c3. We have someone from Barbatos on the show today. Her name is Keisha. First and foremost, she is a woman of God. Yes, I love it. And she has released a new book. It is one that's great, you guys. Releasing the Past. Oh, I cannot wait for her to talk about this book. I would like to have her introduce herself. Miss Rock.
Hi, good evening to you. Good evening, Dr. Lashley. Good evening to your listeners. It is a privilege and an honor to be with you guys this evening. As she said, I'm Keisha Rock, all the way from the Sun Isle, Barbados, the gem of the Caribbean Sea. 166 square miles, that's what we are, but we are a people who love God, a people who fear God. And today it's all about sharing a little bit about myself with you guys. So yes, I'm a woman of God. I love Almighty God. I believe in his transformational power. My life is a testimony of that. And I am the founder and CEO of Keishas Professional Speaking, Training, and Coaching Services, where we believe that everyone has the capacity and the ability to pursue their purpose with passion. And in 2018, I released my first book, and I followed that by another release, which is a guide to said book. And it has been a journey, a wonderful journey, this project of mine, where I can share with others about how I was able to transition from not knowing really who I was in Christ, not knowing the purpose and the potential that God had birthed me with, and to be able to share that journey with others as a tool to encourage them and to help them to recognize that their dreams and their goals are truly within their grasp.
Wow, that's amazing. So I want to ask you a question. What is it about your past that you find it most challenging to release? Like at what level? Because I know a lot of us, we grow up in a certain situation and we hold on to it. But do you find it that people are holding on more to their adolescent years, more so than their teenage years or young adulthood?
Well, when I think about my personal experience, it was something I went through as an adult, but to get to the root of the problem, I had to go back to my childhood. And in the book, I started that journey roundabout initially from my teenage years and before, because I had to go back to my relationship with my dad, and I had to release him of some things and then come forward. I had to release myself of some things as well. So, persons struggle with different things, but I think one of the biggest things for me was forgiving myself. Forgiving myself. I had to let myself go. I had to allow myself to recognize that, yes, I can make mistakes, but those mistakes don't define who I am and who God has called me to be.
Wow. And, and you're talking about this, I'm just thinking about my past. There's so much that happened. It's like, sometimes I think we block things out so that we can forget. Have you ever had moments where you're like, okay, I don't want to remember this anymore.
It's like a defense mechanism, isn't it? That
Yes.
automatically we push it aside, we try to ignore it, don't acknowledge that it actually happened or took place so that we don't have to confront it. But as it is with forgiveness, if we don't confront those things, they continue to eat away at us. They affect our ability to heal, to truly heal from things.
Hmm.
And as a result, we are not living fulfilled lives. And then we can't figure out what is it that's stopping me from going just beyond where I am. Because we can sense deep within ourselves that there's more, but there's a barrier. And sometimes we have to go back to address some things and then come forward. It was difficult because you really had to open a closet, pull some skeletons out, look them dead in what used to be their eyes, and say, I'm not going to allow you to hold me captive anymore. I'm
Wow.
going to press on, you know? And I remember saying to someone in a session that I was doing, do you remember years ago when we had pictures and you had to go into the dark room? You
Yes.
had to go into that dark room for process, the process to take place that would allow the beauty of the picture to come forward. It's like a butterfly in a cocoon.
Mm-hmm.
You have that dark phase, but we don't want to go through the dark phase. But unless we do that, unless we allow the process to take its course, its natural course, and confront those things, unfortunately, we can't get to the other side and see the beauty because we will be forever haunted by the things of our past.
Wow. I'm just like thinking about some situations of my past. And recently I have started writing in books and started with anthologies initially. And it took so much for me to even start to write and tell people about my past because I went through a lot of things and, and Dr. Sherwood will always say your story is about you, but it is not for you.
Oh, yes,
And
I agree.
and I strongly agree with that because as I'm sitting here and I tell my story often and people are like, what do you mean?
Hmm.
You?
Hmm.
Yeah, me.
I
I
agree.
I had to go through so I
Yes,
can help others.
yes. Because and the thing is that sometimes we look down on ourselves and we say, "Why me?" But our Heavenly Father says, "Why not you?" And
Wow.
usually through the process, we discover strength we never knew we had. And while sometimes we can't see it, it is then displayed for others who need it, who say to you, but you are so strong. And it encourages them. Meanwhile, we're saying, I'm not so sure about that strength. That strength is kind of questionable, but that's a testimony of it not being for us.
Yes.
That's a testimony of the journey and all of the things we've been through, all of our experiences not truly being for us. We benefit from it, yes, but at the end of the day, there are others who need to see that they can truly release their past. And one of the things that my book started with, and I say in the first chapter of the book, is that I was having a conversation with a friend who was having a difficult time with a relationship. And I said to them, you mustn't, these were my exact words, don't allow the past to hold the pen that writes your future, which is now my quote, which is now
Oh,
mine. But then it literally slapped me one time. And I was like, that wasn't for them. That was really for me. Because that's what I was doing. And I allowed
mm,
all of the things that I went through. I held on to them. Some things I didn't even realize I was holding on to them. And
wow.
then I couldn't visualize me in the future. I couldn't visualize me pursuing dreams and goals and going after things that I really, that really God had preordained
Mm,
for me
yes.
to walk in.
Yes. Wow. And thinking about holding on to things as women, we sometimes hold on to things and like, I don't want to let it go because it is a comfort zone for me.
What they say, speak the
So
truth and shame the devil.
yeah.
Yeah. And it sometimes gives us, we think it gives us permission to
Mm.
behave a particular way.
Oh yes.
But
Yes.
but it harms us, and it takes away from us having successful relationships. And
Mm.
I think for me in my book, I realized that I had had a lot of dysfunctional relationships because of the dysfunctional relationship, which was that I had with my earthly father.
Wow.
So as a result of that, I kept searching for something and making mistakes because he never truly played the role that he ought to play, and I never realized how that impacted my life. So
And
I had
I,
to release him.
yeah, I find when we go searching for something, we don't find it.
Nope, we
It's like,
definitely did
wait
not.
for it.
Yes, and that was a lesson that I had to learn, and unfortunately, it took me too long to learn that lesson. But I was able to take a journey trying to get to this point, and evaluated experience is the best teacher. So I was able then to
Yes.
look back, and now I can share with others. And I really want to take a dive into that in my next book. How our relationships with our fathers, how it's
Oh.
impacted us as women. That's what
Mm.
I'm currently working on. How it has impacted us as women in our relationships, how we
Wow.
view ourselves, how we view males, sometimes even how we behave towards females and our mothers
Yeah.
because sometimes of those relationships. So there's so much to
Yeah.
unpack, Dr. Lashley. So but
Yeah. I there's so much I want to say on here. My dad, I know he would kill me. But when you said those words, I'm like, it is so true because I saw a lot growing up. Now I love my dad to death. He is my hero.
mhm,
No matter what he did, he was still my hero.
yeah,
And, whatever he and my mother went through, I say that, it shouldn't affect our relationship.
mhm,
And I didn't allow it to. But seeing things in the household, I never realized how it would impact me growing up as an adult.
and it
And the
does.
man that I would, encounter is, and I'm like, yeah, when you said that, I was like, wait a minute. Thinking back of in the household with how things were, I mean, we had a great family, but every family have issues.
Yes.
And I thought about the type of man I would date or boys or whatever you want to say. It's like, you're
Yeah.
right.
And I really had to take a good look at it, but it was only after I got to a particular point in my life, and I was like, it was like an aha moment, you know? And I honestly had to release him. I don't have contact with him. Uh, I think I told this story before, but when I finished my book, for years I tried to find him on social media platforms because he no longer lives here in Barbados, he lives in the UK, and I could
Mhm.
never find him. I want you to know that as soon as I finished my book, I found him. As soon
Are
as
you
the
serious?
process was finished. But wait, I reached out to him on Facebook, and he added me to block me.
Oh.
And if I hadn't gotten to the point that I was at, that would have devastated me. It would have crushed
Mm.
me. I mean, all the adjectives you could possibly think of. But I reached out to him and I said to him, this is my book. I've written this book. You can feel free to get a copy if you want to. It's available on Amazon. And I just want you to know that I forgive you. I forgive you for
Wow.
not being the father that I think you should have been to me. And I have siblings who don't even know that I exist, and
Wow.
he just relocated and started a new life. And I'm not the only one. He left others behind here in Barbados, and things like that, how his sons now maybe treating their wives or their
Mm,
girlfriends because they never had the
yeah.
example of what a father, what a role model as a male in the home should have been. So there was a lot I had to let go. My daughter has never met him. She doesn't even, I think I have one picture. I think I showed her and I said, well, this is your grandfather. Well, my father because he was my stepdad. So, all of those things, I don't think we ought to experience life like this. I don't think that's how it was meant to be. But then for us as women, when we go through these things, we try to fix our lives and make sure that we don't ever fall into that, and we end up
Yes.
tripping over ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a lot of that, and hence releasing the past. You know,
Wow. Did it take a lot for you to do? Because there's some hurt that you could have in your past, and it's like, how can you let it go? I know you turn to God, a lot of us do. But sometimes, you still be like, but God, I don't want
yeah.
to.
But for a long time, that's the truth. Because for a long time, I thought I had dealt with things. I thought I was managing well until round about the end of 2017. I
Wow.
I got to the point I could not mask it anymore. I could not pretend. I could not show up. I could not put on the face. And as a result of my background in psychology, I knew I needed help. And there's a chapter in the book where I deal with your mental health matters. And being aware of one's mental health and wellness is important because we need to know the signs. We need to know when it's time to get help. And I handpicked my counselor and I got help. And that made the difference. That made a big difference because the tools that I was given, the, the tips, the strategies that I was given, by executing those things, I was able to come full circle. I was able to look at the things I needed to change, examine myself, examine my experience, own my feelings, and really deal with it because I was at a point where I was just falling apart. I was just falling apart, and I had to make a decision. Had to make a decision. For a lot of us, especially here in Barbados and the Caribbean, getting help is still very taboo. And for,
Yes.
for many persons, they're not going to go and get help. I'm not going to tell my business to this person or to that person. But at the end of the day, I don't see it necessarily as telling your business. I really see it as healing your soul, healing your heart, clearing your mind,
Hmm.
and allowing yourself to live. Because so many times we wear masks, and sometimes we run out of masks. Sometimes we
Yes.
run out of makeup, and it becomes really difficult to show up and to be yourself and to take your place in this world. It becomes really difficult.
Yes, it does. But we're going to take a quick break. We come back. I want to talk about why you think that today it is still so hard for us to go and seek help when we need it. We'll be right back.
Dr. Tracy Lashley is the voice of the oppressed and master of teaching the transformational steps from pain of trauma to the power of a survivor. Destined for the shape-shifting ability to step into thriving beyond trauma. She has survived welfare, single parenthood, divorce, military spouse life, being broke, living with bad credit, borderline homeless, not being able to feed her children, just simply struggling to survive for her and her children. If you can relate and wish Dr. Lashley to assist you, contact her today by sending an email to info@drtracielashley.com or by going to her website at drtracylashley.info.
We are back. We are talking to the lovely Miss Keisha Rock in Barbados. I love saying that. We were just talking about mental health and people not wanting to seek help. During this pandemic, we have seen and heard a lot of people struggling. They're at home, they're isolated. Um, what would you say to someone who just said they don't need it? They don't need to talk to anyone. I know you're not a mental health specialist, so I'm going to put that out there, disclaimer out there. But being someone who has gone through and had the experience of one, you mentioned some of the things that how it helped you. But if someone is in a place right now thinking that I don't want to pretty much admit that something is wrong, what would you say to them?
I think it starts with being honest with yourself.
Mm,
I think so many times we are running from what we really know is true. And sometimes people don't recognize that it is a mental health issue. And mental health and wellness just means that in terms of your mind, in terms of your emotions, in terms of your thoughts, you are not centered. You're not at a place of peace. So people may be overeating or oversleeping. They may be withdrawing from their usual activities. They may find that they don't have much energy and think, oh, it's just fatigue, I'm just tired. They have unexplained pain and aches in their bodies. They may be drinking and smoking and thinking it's just pleasurable, it's just sociable. And one of the things that is happening now is that without the ability to really interact with others, to go out to those places that numb what it is we're really going through and connect with those people who we think are our friends, who are really our crutches to not confront the issues that we're dealing with, it's causing people now to have to deal with things that they were trying to suppress. So it's all coming to the fore. I think that's the issue. And I really must say mental health is something that's really, really very much so on my heart. I think because I've been there and I can see the signs easily because I've walked that road. I've walked that road. So there's so many people who are struggling now as a result of that.
here in the States, minorities,
Yeah.
um, we don't want to admit that we need to talk to someone. And for the very reason you said, oh, they're in Barbados, how it is like, I don't tell people my business. But here it's like, we're taught to, what goes on in the house stays in the house. We're taught that you don't need to go to a doctor every single time you get ill. Just go take some aspirin.
Yeah.
Or, you don't need to, you need to be a man. Men are, just tough and they're the men of the house. They don't have to, go out and ask nobody questions or anything. And I believe that weighs heavily on our Black men.
Yes, it does. And I think,
And
I don't know the
yeah,
statistics, but I think that with black men, the statistics for suicide is probably higher than black women.
yeah, man.
Because they're not taught to own their feelings and emotions. To do that, you're a sissy, you're a wuss. You're a
Yes.
girl. Are you a girl or are you a man?
Oh,
They're taught to
yeah.
man up. But to
Mm-hmm.
me, to man up is to own your feelings.
Mm.
To me, to man
Oh,
up is to
yes.
express those feelings.
You could say it 1,000 times. Because I have 3 sons, and I was just talking to one of them today, and when every time something goes wrong, it's like the world is coming to an end. And I'm like, it's okay. It's life. Life is a roller coaster ride.
It is.
And he actually had to go and talk to someone before, and it really helped him. And it took him a while to get to that point, but he saw where it was okay. It was okay. And I
And it's
believe he was
important,
19 when he
right?
started talking. Hmm.
It's important for him to have had that experience too.
Yes.
Because as he grows older and he's confronted, because right now this to him is a mountain.
Hmm.
From his perspective, whatever it was, it may not have been big because of our experiences. We may not be able to see it, view it through the same lens that he was viewing it through because it's his experience. But that, now that he's gone through that process, now that he's been able to overcome and to navigate it, it's laid a foundation that when he's confronted with adversity in the future, He knows, okay, hold up, I can get through this. It's
Yes.
hard, it hurts, I'm disappointed, I'm upset, but I can overcome this.
Yeah. Wow. And speaking of overcoming, in your book, do you actually describe some tips that people can, apply?
I definitely get into some things, especially in the participants guide for
Mm,
persons who, even if you don't go through a guided program with me, with my business, that's fine. You can purchase the book and you can go through it on your own. So, for instance, when we look at planning, we talk about planning, the importance of planning, because sometimes when we don't have a plan for our lives, that that determines
mhm.
how we feel about ourselves and the things that we do. When we
Yes.
talk about our mental health, no, that was a big one, because some of the things we talked about, setting the importance of recognizing what are the things that are impacting us. What is our current mental state? How are we feeling? Really own our feelings. What are
Yes.
the warning signs? There's a checklist in the book. So what are those things that apply to you? Really take a good look at yourself, and from the checklist, would you say, do you have a positive or a negative mental health? List
Wow.
four things you believe you can implement to maintain a positive mental health. So it really causes you to think, you know, and when you look at your mental health, after you've looked at the definition, you need to look at your mental health and journal some of the signs that you currently are experiencing. And then there's a part where I ask persons to commit, and there's a signature in the date and everything. I promise to seek necessary intervention to ensure I am in a place to operate at my maximum potential, because this promise, this declaration, is for you to take care of you. And if you can't take care of yourself, trust me, don't expect anybody else to do it.
Wow. Yes, that is so crucial. And when we talk about journaling, I know I am one who journals a lot.
I do as well. I
There are
definitely
so many people who are like, journaling? No, I'm not going to do that. But I find that when I journal and I actually notate, some quick wins as well. And how am
yes.
I going to celebrate those wins?
And that's so important. And so many times I find we struggle to celebrate our wins. It doesn't have to be a big celebration, but buy yourself your favorite cupcake. Have a glass of your favorite drink, or just do something that's special and unique to you. Just to say,
Yes.
what, I've conquered this. This really turned out in my favor, and this is just awesome. We struggle to celebrate ourselves. I don't know why, and I don't think it's a matter of not being humble, but you ought to celebrate your wins, because that encourages you to pursue new things and to recognize that you can have wins, you can have successes, you can have a life that's flourishing, because not every day is the same. And I remember one year, one of the things I did is that I took these colored pieces of paper, and every time something good happened to me, I can't remember where I heard it. I think it was on one of our local gospel stations. Someone shared it that they had found it somewhere. But every time something good happened to me, I recorded it and I put the date. And what I did was, on the 31st of December, I emptied that jar out with all of those pieces, all of those colored pieces of paper, and I read all of the things that had happened to me, all of the wins I had had during the course of that year. So, and I think it's something really important for us to do, especially in this season when it seems like nothing good is happening, and we tend to overlook the wins. And I think in 2021 is a perfect time. We're in the second month of the year, and God's Fair Lives, we have 10 more to go. And you can take a jar, you can make it pretty, you can do whatever you want to do. Get your colored pieces of post-its, and you just record when something happens. I know you guys have your stores like Michael's and all those places that you can go and get all the little knickknacks and just
Yes.
and just buy them, and if you want a special pen, whatever, make that your thing. And when something good happens, you record it, you date it, and at the end of the year, look back and see that despite all that has happened, despite the obstacles, despite the adversity, some good things, because it's going to be more than one, some good things happened to me, and this still has been a good year.
Yes, 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 yes. And when we're talking about goal settings in our mental health, I think about if you had those celebrations, those little small celebrations, it actually does something to you on the inside. It's like, man, yes, I can keep going.
It really does. It really does. It drives you. It gives you passion. It ignites you because you see, even if, like, depending on how you felt before whatever it was happened, and say it was something you didn't think, I can do this. This is not going to work in my favor. But you stepped out and you pursued it. And then it did work out in your favor. You can set another goal. You can have
Yes.
another plan and then you can pursue it. And it gives you a little more passion to pursue that next project. Because you know what? You're starting to build a track record. And success really can be mine. I can experience success. So it changes our perspective, it shifts our mindset. And what we focus on expands. If I focus on winning, I'm going to start winning. That's how it works. That's literally how it works. When we shift our mind, I'm not saying bad things aren't going to happen in between because that's life. But if we are negative all the time, you can be sure you're going to be experiencing a lot of adversity, a lot of obstacles, a lot of stumbling blocks, as opposed to when you have a winning mindset.
Yes. Ooh, you know what? Winning mindset. Yes. Everything starts with your mind. No matter what you do, the way you think is going to have an impact.
Agreed. It
So
is
no
so
matter if you're out there trying to change yourself, change the world, if you have negative thoughts, they will eat you alive.
that is so true.
Because I know, and I'm actually saying it from experience because I remember being a single mother and thinking, man, the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, and the I can't, and woe is me, and there's no
Hmm.
way that I can keep going. And it's like that if I didn't change quickly, that would have impacted my children.
Yes.
And so now today they are stronger because of the way that I stood up and said, no, I'm going to win.
Yes.
That this situation is not going to beat me.
Well, Tracy, let me tell you a bit about, oh, apologies, Dr. Lashley. Let
It's
me
okay.
tell you a bit about my story. At the beginning of the book, I go back to my childhood, and failure was something that was not foreign to me at all. I was very familiar with failure. And hearing your story, sometimes we are around the globe so far from each other, but our stories are so much alike. And I left what would be high school for you guys, secondary school here for me in Barbados. And I had very little qualifications, very little. Shouldn't put an S on it. Let's put it that way. And I remember wanting more. And I didn't want to go back to school because I honestly felt too embarrassed. So I did some courses on the side and eventually I applied to go to college. I applied to college. I could only get in for an evening part-time program. I failed at that, but I did some more courses. I applied again. I got in for a full-time day program. And during my studies at college, I got pregnant with my daughter. And I was able to finish college. I didn't have honors and all of that, but I was able to finish. And then from there, I remember she was born in July and I registered for university in August. I registered with her in a town and I was determined that I was going to be better for her. I had to be mindful of the example I was leaving for her. And I tell the story of her being in the bed with me at university. I'm trying to get through statistics, which was kicking my butt at that time. And this child is a mathematician. When I see the things that she's doing, I'm like, what is that? She was like, oh, mom, this math doesn't even have numbers. It just has letters. Because she's doing pure math, but she's excelling. And while I left with one, she's in her final year. She has 10 qualifications. She has another four, and she's pursuing four more before she looks to go on to university. And she is on a path that if she didn't see me fighting, if I wasn't trying to live the life that I was speaking, I couldn't set the example for her. I couldn't because I wanted to be better for her. Not to live my life through her, but to set the example that I wanted her to follow. And I try to do my best to do that. I can't say I'm successful every day, but I definitely do try because at the end of the day, our kids are going to make their own choices. But
Yes.
what is the path? What is the legacy that we are creating for them to follow on through if they choose? Because it's their choice at the end of the day.
Wow. Yes, it is. And I had a discussion with two of my children today, actually, and I was talking about, there are times when, I struggled and, y'all didn't know it. And then they're like, Mom, we knew. I said, what you mean you knew? They said, we knew. We just didn't say anything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, wow. So we try and hide things from our children
Yeah,
sometimes. And no, they know.
so true. Even if they don't say anything, eventually they will. But it's good because it means that they're observing and it also means that the lessons are being taught. And I think it helps them to appreciate life a little more because I'm I'm a strong believer that we learn through our experiences. And if we give them everything, if they think everything comes easy, then they don't recognize the importance of having to fight for stuff. And I keep seeing
Oh,
this.
yes.
If you have to carry your own water, you value every drop. If you have to
Wow.
carry it, you value every drop. And sometimes we are guilty as parents of giving everything, and then our kids don't have value for stuff.
I'm guilty because, I had my
But it's
mindset.
because of our experiences sometimes that we
Yes.
do that. So sometimes we go from one extreme to the next, and it's really a difficult balance. But it's because of our stories. So it's
Mhm.
not an indictment necessarily. Yes, it's something to evaluate, but it happens with reason. And why am I doing this? But we have to be mindful of the example we set for them as well, because then they may raise a generation of kids that think, "Oh, bam! I snap my fingers and everything happens," and that's not
Yes.
the case.
I remember my granddaughter, she told her mom, she's like, she wanted, I think pizza or something. And her mom was like, no, we can't have that today. And she said, call grandma. I'm like, what?
Oh, because grandma makes it happen.
Yes.
Yeah, I think my daughter is the same way. My mom doesn't say no.
It's like you raise your children and you spoil them and you see the outcome. You're like, okay, yeah, I need to stop. But then you spoil your grandchildren even more.
Definitely.
Like, okay, I need to stop. But they go home at the end of the day. Well, no, I won't say at the end of the day because a lot of times I still keep them over and over and over again. Many nights they're like, well, how many more nights am I staying?
They love being with grandma.
Yes. Okay, we're going to take another quick break. When we come back, we are going to talk a little bit about passion and purpose.
Great.
Exciting. Yes. We'll be right back.
Dr. Lashley is an expert team culture strategist who educates leaders on techniques to harmonize family and work life while developing dynamic and productive teams. After being raised underprivileged, becoming a single mother of two, Dr. Lashley married an Army soldier who deployed to Afghanistan, Iraq, and Korea 11 times during his 20 years of service. She was forced to raise 3 of 5 children essentially alone. As a working mother and college student for 10 years, she had to find a sense of balance while juggling her children's activities and not losing herself in the process. She now helps working mothers and women in leadership positions harmonize their life while creating dynamic and productive teams at home and work. Are you ready for Dr. Lashley to elevate your teams at work and home? If so, contact her today by sending an email to info@drtracielashley.com or by going to her website at drtracylashley.info.
Hello. We are back. We are here with the exciting Barbatos guest, Keisha Rock. And we were talking about her book, Releasing the Past, that you can get on Amazon. And later on, she's going to tell you how you can purchase her book. So, stay tuned. Don't turn that dial yet. So, Keisha, can you tell us a little bit about how you found your passion and purpose in life?
Sure. In 2017, as I think I said earlier, I was having a really, really dark moment in my life, a really dark season, and I felt hopeless. And one Sunday during church, an announcement came out about persons who were interested in pursuing their purpose. If you felt there was more that you had to do and you wanted to explore those things, to meet with one of my mentors, my pastor at the church. And at that time, I kept seeing all of these John Maxwell quotes. They were coming up. And when we met with her, she wanted to take us on a journey. Using John's book, we were going to do a mastermind, the 50 Invaluable Laws of Growth. And I remember turning up for the class the evening. And I still didn't want to be there, but I knew that's where I needed to be. So I pushed through and I was there. And as a result of that experience, honestly, that book changed my life. And I was able to find value and purpose in my life. I was able to see that there was something more in me and that I could reach it. And it started to ignite something in me. In that group, I had an accountability group. We were encouraged to stop procrastinating about a lot of the things we were procrastinating about. And I remember one of those things for me was writing a book. I always joked with my friends and said my life has been full of so much drama that I really need to write a book. And I started writing this book, but I never finished. And I was encouraged to take up this book and to finish writing it. I will tell you that I do not even remember writing some parts of the book because I think God just took it and did what he had to do. And
Wow.
I also I have some poems, but I did put one of the poems in the book. But I realized that I had dreams that I had not pursued, and it wasn't too late to pursue them. Because I think a lot of the times we think, oh, I've lived half my life already, and what's the sense? But as we said earlier, our stories are not for us.
Yes.
Our journey is not only about us. And John Maxwell speaks about adding legs to our legacy. So I have one daughter, but there are other persons that I've come into contact with that I've been able to add value to their lives and vice versa. And as a result, that creates legs for my legacy. So walking in purpose is not just about me, but for single mothers who failed out of school, for single mothers who struggled, for women who've been divorced and they've had challenges in their marriages and they've had to deal with abuse or whatever the gamut of things that they had to face as a result of being able to overcome those things. I can encourage somebody else to walk in purpose because
Wow.
I found my footing, and if I can do it, I just keep saying, if I can do it, anybody else can.
Yes. Wow. You got me up here like, whoa. And oh man, the law of the mirror. Mm.
Ooh, that was a big one for me because I remember writing in my journal that evening, I didn't like what I saw.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
did not like what I saw. And as a result of, because we had to walk with the mirror to class that evening,
Wow.
and we had to hold it up, and we had to talk about what we saw. And what we saw wasn't about the made up face. It wasn't about, even if we had a little mucus in our eyes, it was about the reflection that
Mhm.
was coming back to you. Who are you?
Yes.
What do you see when you look in that mirror? And more importantly, what is it that you show the world when you show up?
Mm. Oh man, yes.
You know?
That is that's one of the chapters that I was like, do I really have to read this one?
Yeah, that's really facing it, wasn't it? I think it really hit home. It really hit home for me
Yes.
because, as I said, remember at that time I was masking it, but I had got to the point that I could no longer get the mask on, get the makeup on. I remember one Sunday a lady came to me in church, and very friendly, nice lady, and I think she hugged me. I didn't, or did she? Whatever she did, Dr. Lashley, I didn't see her. And afterwards, because I play things over in my head. Afterwards, I played it, and I had to go to her afterwards, like a week or two later, and I had to apologize because where I was at that point in time, I could not respond to her like I normally would. But she not necessarily knowing what I was going through, I wasn't sure how she received what I did. But I
Mm.
couldn't give any more. I had nothing left to give. I was
Wow.
spent. I was worn. I was hurt. I was crushed. I was just devastated. I was tired of life. Honestly, I was tired of life because during that same year I had surgery. And I remember going to the doctor and he said, well, I hope you don't plan to have any more kids. And I was like,
Mm.
what? It was the way it was said. you
Wow.
know and when you have plans for your life, especially when you've gone through certain things and you say, okay, well, I can still be married and I can still finally have another child, and then you're hit with this, it's like, wow. So I went through what I went through and then dealt with that, and it felt like it was the worst time in my life. But I will say to you that in January of 2018, my grandfather died on the 31st of January. The book is dedicated to him, actually. I finished it just before his birthday. Um, and if it if I had not gone through what I went through, what I thought was taking everything out of me, on the 31st of January 2018, this is the way I frame it. My heart broke into a million pieces, and I don't think they can ever be put back together again, not as it was, because he was my world. I thought he was going to live forever, and I didn't even get to say goodbye. So, but going through that process, that wasn't able to to shake me like it would have had I not gone through the process, had I not started to heal from the things that were impacting me from before. So, whenever we think we are in hell, it literally is preparing us for another step. And the other step is usually hotter.
Yes, that is so true. Wow. So what is one thing you would tell people about letting go of their past?
It's for your healing. It's for your healing because we usually think it's about the other person, but it's not. It's about us. Because when we don't forgive, when we take our past along with us, we are so heavy laden. We are weighed down. And it means that we can't live life, we can't soar if we're being held back.
Oh, yeah.
We can't soar if we're being held back. And so many times we are weighed down. We are sometimes tied down and bound by the things that we've been going through, things we've gone through in our past. So let it go. For me, it was letting it go to God and getting help. So I intertwined the two, the secular and the spiritual, because while I chose a pastor to be my counselor, he was not within the church setting. He happened to be a pastor, but he didn't only counsel people within the realms of the word. And it was a mixture for me. And as a result, I was able to find my healing. I was able to literally and figuratively let go of a lot of things that I held on to, things that I didn't even realize were impacting me. So your healing, your release is for you to be able to walk in purpose. And that's why I go down saying, don't allow the past to hold the pen that writes your future.
Wow. That was awesome. I was just sitting there like, wow. So what is it that you want people to know about you, Miss Keisha Rock, before we end the show? And how can they get your amazing book? And how can they get in touch with you if they wanted to?
What I want persons to know about me. I am a fighter. I think I have to own that. I'm a fighter. And the worst thing you can do is tell me that I can't. Because I'm going to do it. I am going to do it, and I love a challenge. And my life has been a challenge. So as a result of that, it's created that fighting spirit within me. It's created that passion and that drive, which I love sharing with others, because it's not only about sharing my story, but it's about showing persons you can. You can. It's well within your grasp. Failure is not final. That's the story of my life. Failure is not final. And for persons to get in contact with me, you can reach out to me through my website, www.kairosproservices.com, www.kairosproservices.com. You can find me on Instagram, Kairos Professional Services, and definitely you can find me on those two platforms and reach out to me there. With regard to my book, it's available on Amazon, Releasing the Past, Building Beauty from Brokenness by Keisha Rock. It's available in Kindle as well as in the paperback. So you can order it there for sure.
Wow, fantastic. Okay, so Kairos is spelled Kairos. Okay, so Kairos Pro Services.
Yes, please.
Okay. I was like, okay, we didn't tell them how to spell it.
And you know what? Kairos just means that now is the time. It's the opportune time. It's a word we use, but my daughter is part of her name, and funny enough, it's part of my father's name. And now is the time. Kairos.
Wow, that is beautiful.
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome. I have really enjoyed the conversation.
It was amazing. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes. So, yes, we need to collaborate and do some things together.
Definitely, I agree. Definitely agree. We have similar stories, and there's so many persons who I think can benefit from us, sharing our experiences and just adding value and encouraging and motivating others.
Yes. So you guys reach out to Keisha Rock, Barbados. I will see you next week. Same time, same place.
Thank you for listening to When They Hear Us, where Dr. Tracy Lashley and her guests provide stories and experiences. This is also a platform for authors to encourage, empower, and equip people around the world with their voice. To learn more about Dr. Lashley and her quest to share the voice of powerful writers, go to her website at drtracylashley.info. You may also contact her by sending an email to info@drtracylashley.com. Remember to always intentionally walk in your purpose, and strive to elevate to significance.